Steven.
Good, how about you?
Good. How were the roads on your way in today?
Not too bad, yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's been pretty bad here lately, but today was pretty good, so.
Good. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. How have you been doing?
Good, yeah, just finished up with finals, so feeling a little relieved, so it's been nice change of pace. We've got a break here now for a while, so that should be fun. Should be good
Yeah,
time.
you have a lot of stress off your shoulders now. You can
Yeah.
maybe take a breath and relax.
Yeah, a lot more free time.
Totally. Well, if you don't mind, we're going to get to it. Do you
Sure.
mind if I ask you some questions about your past and your childhood growing up?
No, go for it.
Okay, well, tell me a little bit about like your family growing up. Did you have any siblings?
Yeah, I had 3 siblings, 3 older siblings.
What were their names?
So there was Cassie.
Okay.
She's the oldest.
How much older is she than you?
Man, you gotta make me do math. I'm not in school.
Sorry.
She's 6 years older, 6 and a half.
6?
And
Okay.
then I've got 2 brothers who are twins.
Oh,
Uh,
identical or fraternal?
they are identical, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
That must have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was interesting. I'm sure fun for them. We'd always hear them in the middle of the night wrestling all the time.
Oh.
They'd always wrestle and whatnot at night, which is kind of funny.
Like
But-
fun wrestling or?
Yeah. It was fun wrestling.
Okay.
For the most part, until they would piss each other off. It's usually how it went, but it would always keep me up at night, which is kind of weird. But
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
what are their names?
that is Sean and Stuart.
And Stuart?
Mhm.
Okay. Can I call him Stu?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how much older are Sean and Stu?
They're 4.5 years older than
4.5. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys are kind of spread out by like 2 years? Like 2
Yeah,
years in between
well-
your sibling, your brother and your sister, and then 2 years between your brothers and you.
No,
Correct?
4
Oh.
years between me and my brothers, and then
Okay.
6 years between me and my sister. So my sister is 2 years older than my brother.
Okay, yes, that's what I was trying
Yeah.
to explain.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, how would you like describe them? Like, what attributes would you assign to them growing up?
Oh, that's interesting. Growing up, or I guess like now. As they've-
Maybe both. If
Mhm.
you feel like comfortable doing both.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, Cassie, as being the oldest, she's kind of always been the, protective one that's always looked out for us, and kind of a little bit bossy, typical,
Sure.
first child. And she's very caring of other people, and she's still like that today for the most part. She has 2 kids, and she's just the same way, she is with them as she was with us growing up, which is interesting to see. And then Nick and then Sean and Stu are, it's funny, they've kind of flipped roles from once they were younger. Sean and I used to butt heads a lot growing up, and then Stu, we were both as antagonists more so as a younger child, and so it was easier for me to antagonize Sean growing up, and I got along well with Stu, but then that kind of flipped as they got older. Sean became just very kind and caring guy, and very compassionate, and Stu was a lot more driven. Not anything bad necessarily.
Sure.
I mean, we still get along. We bump heads, but I think it's always can be healthy in relationships. Bump heads every now and then. But he's a lot more driven and focused, on his family, and that's what he prioritizes most. As maybe some of the other siblings do. So
Okay.
yeah.
So I hear you saying that you have a better relationship with your siblings that are more connected to your family unit. And like your brother Stu is kind of distancing himself, so maybe that's why you don't have a strong
Yeah, I mean,
relationship.
I wouldn't say necessarily that we don't have a strong relationship, compared
Okay.
to the others. I think it's, different. I think maybe other people in the family would say that more so. Maybe
Okay.
they feel disconnected, but I still feel, a connection through,
Sure.
our experiences that we've had and that we've shared. And he's, he's always around, and he's always had my back. So it's just a different aspect than
Okay.
seeing all my other siblings like I do. So
Awesome. Well, I guess how would you rank your siblings in status? Like, who is the strongest link and who is the weakest link?
Status like what, like socioeconomic status?
No, like in your place in the family. Like who? Like out of the, how would you rank your siblings? Like, was the oldest the leader, or was maybe one of your brothers the leader at certain times?
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of touched on Cassie. She was a lot more of the driving force, the leader. But I think as we got older, then Stu kind of became more that type of role, and Sean and I weren't, I never really challenged any sort of leadership, and plus, by the time I was old enough, to have maybe the confidence to be a leader, they were all gone out of school, so it it was just me and my parents left there, so it wasn't necessarily anyone to lead or follow at that point.
Sure.
Yeah. So I mean, I classify it probably as Cassie, up top,
Yeah.
and then maybe sometimes Stu was
would be
mine, and then Sean, and then me.
You?
Steve,
Yeah? You think you're the smallest or the least authoritative out of your...
Growing up, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, what were like the roles in your family unit? Like, was it one person taking care of other kids? Did certain people, I know you said you got along more with Stu growing up, but you had like you butt heads with Sean a bit.
Yeah. So I mean, the role, Cassie, kind of took care of, everyone else, and was kind of the caretaker. And then with Stu, that we got along, and all the brothers got along, fairly well. I just think brothers can like butt heads as they do, and I'm not claiming innocence as the youngest brother.
Well, yeah.
Not being annoying or not anticipating.
Yeah.
So everyone plays a role. I think I don't know, the roles between the brothers. It's kind of like hard to define. It wasn't much really of a role. Nick and Nate kind of were more. Stu and Sean were more independent, I would say, than I was growing up. But.
Cool. Well, let's see. Do you remember any like childhood fears that you had growing up, like
childhood
that you
fears
can recall? I know, like I was really afraid of heights when I was a little kid, and I still am, but that's something that started pretty young for me.
Yeah, I guess death was a fear as a child.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was a big one, and kind of getting. That was one dream. It's kind of good. That was like had to run down a hill.
Oh.
And I was chasing away running away from a boulder. So I remember that fear, which is a very distinct fear growing up. But that fear of
Sure, of getting trampled by a boulder.
Yeah.
Out of your control.
Yeah, or like having to be running away.
Yeah.
Almost, I guess. But.
Oh, okay. What about any ambitions? Like, did you know what you wanted to be when you were little? Did you know what you wanted to achieve?
I think I had ideas. I remember at one point, I think I told my sister that, I was either going to be president or pope.
Oh, president or pope.
Those were my two options, which is funny now because I'm not religious at all. But, I'm going to law school, but president, I have no ambition of being in political office. But
yeah.
I was always liked history growing up, so I always had those kind of like ambitions in government and whatnot. But
cool.
That
Sure.
hasn't necessarily translated today. But
yeah, but you wanted to be like in a book that someone could read about, like you were.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess let's talk a little bit about your parents. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah. What are their current ages and occupations?
Oof. Put me on the spot. My mom is 68.
Around.
And my dad, wait, no, not 68, 50,
58,
58.
okay.
58, yeah, 58.
That's a big difference.
I was doing the math wrong, yeah.
Yeah.
58, they're both 58, I believe.
Okay, cool.
There's only
so
like,
they're the same age.
yeah, it was 6 months different. My
Who's
mom's
older?
older, but I think they're both 58 now.
Cool. What kind of person is your dad?
My dad's very, outgoing person. Likes to talk to people, likes to tell stories. Kind of. The prototypical. I always think of him as the prototypical jock in high school. If you think about what in like the 70s.
Yeah.
Think about just a jock back in the day.
That was your dad?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He's a very good athlete. He's all conference in 3 sports and. But yeah, that's just kind of how I define him. Popular kid.
Yeah, a jock.
Decent. He's pretty smart and he likes to talk and he's a good time. So.
Good.
And then my dad, he's a administrator, school administrator, so assistant principal. I was an English teacher for a while, and
Nice.
now that's what he's doing currently.
Okay.
And my mom is a physical therapist, and she's a lot like my brothers. She's very driven. She's got her mind made up on stuff. She'll pursue it no matter what. She's very by the book. She always studies up and does things just as they're supposed to be done. Very matter of factly. She's to contrast her to my dad. She's kind of the prototypical marching band nerd. Well, and not to say, I would say maybe a little atypical. She was in marching band. She played flute in high school. But she was also a skipperette, so she's on the dance line.
Nice.
So she's kind of a little bit of a mix of both, but she kind of has some little nerdy tendencies to think like we all do. But and she's very she always says what's on her mind. She speaks what she thinks.
So she's direct. She's a direct communicator.
Which is it's can be good and can be bad depending on who she's talking to, but she always means well.
Sure.
And she's very caring and kind. Always wants the best out from herself and like out of you, and so she'll do what she can to make that
So she has high expectations for herself and her kids.
Yeah, I mean, I think that she just, she can see, she sees that, there's more in you that you can, you can do. And so I don't think it's like she expects, you to do things, but, she makes the expectations for you. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess that is kind of a roundabout way of saying the same thing, but she kind of, I don't know, has a way of like making you realize that there's more that you can do or that you can put out.
So maybe motivate you?
Yeah, that's a good way. Right.
Good.
Right, yeah.
Awesome. Did your parents have any ambitions for you when you were growing up? Did they say, we want you to be a superstar or, a sports guy?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, they were very, heavily focused on sports, as my dad was athletic director, administrator. So we pushed that a lot. And, I mean, like, there wasn't really any, job goals or professions, I guess they pushed. But definitely was into sports for sure. I know my mom was really upset when I quit baseball. She really loved baseball. But any sport really is what they pushed.
Sure.
And I think, they probably wanted me to swim, in college as well. But
and you didn't go on to swim in college?
No, I mean, I wasn't going to go to the Olympics, so.
Yeah.
No real point.
All right.
Not very tall, so doesn't make for a good swimmer.
Aw. What were your parents' relationship like with each other?
With each other?
Yeah. Like, how would you describe their marriage growing up? Were they happy? Were they unhappy?
I mean, they were happy, I would say. I think with their marriage, there's just kind of, some turmoil, especially with 4 kids. And, I think we kind of, I think it's stressful too, because we had a cabin and, our house, which is a very nice house. But I think, my parents, who made, a very good amount of money, is still potentially stretched a little thin sometimes. So there's that,
Okay.
like tension that can kind of reek through at some points.
Sure, there's financial stress, and that's
Yeah, but not like crazy financial stress. I mean, right?
Okay.
I mean,
but enough to
2
cause.
homes and whatnot.
Okay.
But,
Was it? It was enough to cause distress though within your family.
I mean, sometimes you kind of just like felt that, and I think there's kind of just some tensions of things
Okay.
from that. But I mean, generally, happy. I mean, I think
Good.
for the most part.
Okay. What was their relationship with like you and your siblings? Like, were there any siblings that didn't get along with a particular parent, or?
I mean, no. All my other siblings, they got along well with my
Good.
parents. I think they're all very much similar. They're all
Okay.
by the book, and didn't really do anything to cause a ruckus. But that wasn't necessarily my relationship with my parents. Being the youngest, felt a little bit more. I don't know. You get that sense that some people that maybe they have a connection that's more of like a friendship with their parents as
Yes.
just a parental relationship. And maybe that's based on how close they feel in age. I think my sister and her friends kind of felt like that with my parents.
Okay.
But I never got that like friendship. I just felt the kind of parental role, just because we were so kind of different. I guess older. I mean, not that crazy of an age difference. But that's kind of like how it differed for me. And I was also the only one really that did stuff that got in trouble. So then had the more parental discipline side to it. So there's that. But yeah. I mean, that's about the relationship really. I mean, it was pretty much the same for everyone else, and a little different for me, just because.
You got in a little trouble a little bit.
Yeah, I think sometimes I can necessitate it, and just the timing.
Okay, well, if you don't mind, can you take some time to like maybe reflect on a memory that comes to mind, like before age 10? You can take some time to think if you need to.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's a time. So I know when we were talking about my brothers and how I kind of I didn't get along with them Stu growing up, and that kind of changed. And it just reminded me of the story that have you heard the story the boy who cried wolf?
Yes.
So I had a very real life experience to that, because I had always. As the younger sibling, sometimes if I wanted to play a video game, or they were playing too long, or they were playing with something that I wanted, then I would yell out to my mom, and not proud, but and then I would say that they were hitting me, or not letting me play, or and then they would have to go upstairs or do something and get away, and then I would get to play, and so then I did that fairly often, and I think then my brothers started to try to tell my mom like, we're not doing anything, and then so there's one time I tried that same thing, and then I was like, mom, they're beating me up, help, and tell them to come upstairs, and then my mom was just like, Steven, shut up. And I was like, oh no. They weren't actually beating me up at all.
Yeah.
But, then right as that happened, then they're like, oh, it's our opportunity. And, then, a little ruckus after that. But it was just funny, when those children's books are supposed to teach the lesson, and then you actually have that lesson,
Yeah, you experience it in real time.
Yeah, now I don't really, try to say that anymore, or try to do that, try to see it in that way, because, when you need help, it's,
For sure.
You want to make sure it's there when
you want to make sure that people take you by your word. I guess, what was, like, the clearest part of that memory, like, when you recalled it? What could you see the most clear in your mind? Yeah.
Well, I remember literally looking at my brothers as my mom told me to shut up as I was yelling, and they just like smiled as they came at me. So that's.
Oh wow! So did you feel scared in that moment?
I mean, no. I mean, it's the brother. I mean, I don't know how to. It's kind of brotherly.
How did you feel?
I mean, you kind of get like beat up, but it's not like bad. It's just kind of like you wrestle with your brothers. You know what I'm saying? With my brothers, how I would wrestle, and it's a friendly, like it's a. I mean, how. You wrestle kind of, but.
So was was it kind of like humorous for you, or did you feel out of control? Like, what kind of feelings do you have with this memory? Other than, just the brotherly love.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of just funny.
Okay.
That's always funny,
Sure.
It's just
You feel funny, you feel humorous recalling on it.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I think, I don't know, I didn't like getting the beat up part, by my life afterward. It's not like a, traumatic experience. It was just like funny because that was the whole point of when you like read those books.
Yeah.
Is to learn the lessons.
Sure.
And then you don't learn the lessons
From the book.
like I did, and then that exactly happens when you need it. So it's kind of you reap what you sow. And like it wasn't like a bad, obviously it could have been way worse and like actual.
Sure. Yeah.
I could have learned that lesson, some time later in my life. So maybe I guess like thankful. I guess that's another good way to put it. Because then maybe you learn that lesson at that age.
Sure.
And then I don't learn it when I was doing something even stupider.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager or something.
Sure. Well, are there any other memories that you can think of? Like maybe just one more that we can take some time to reflect on?
Like does a dream count as a memory? Or no?
I would prefer a memory, if you had any.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of touched on some of them. With my sister. Remember telling her about how when I wanted to grow up, I wanted to be the president of the.
Oh yeah. Well, can you maybe explain that in more detail? Like what you remember? Where were you? What was that discussion like?
Well, that actually kind of reminds me now of another memory that I was thinking of.
Oh.
So my sister a lot of times, would take care of us when our parents were out or doing something, or I don't know. I just remember my sister taking care of us a lot, And there's always one time we were at our old house, and we were listening to like Garth Brooks and dancing around to Garth Brooks.
So fun.
It's like what song is it? Thunder Rolls and Lightning Strikes. Is that the name of it?
I don't know a lot of Garth Brooks, but it sounds familiar.
I think that's what it is.
Sure.
But yeah, I remember that.
Cool. It was you and your sister, or?
Yeah, my brothers.
You and your brothers?
Yep, at our old house.
Was she babysitting you?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So you guys had like the house to yourself, and you guys were just having a good old time together?
Jumping off the couch.
Fun. Were you allowed?
I had a cape as well. With a blanket that I used as a cape.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess what's the clearest moment of that memory?
Jumping off the couch with a cape.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then what about any feelings that you have when you recall in this?
I'm just happy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see any like themes between these two memories? Like, I know in the first one you said that you feel like you learned a lesson for life, and this one was like a joyous event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's funny, I guess just in the frame of it, when you think of those two things, like that's just kind of what I associate with my, siblings, from your childhood. So it's almost just like important, milestones in my development were attributed to my, siblings being there.
Yeah.
It's not really milestones, but when I think about, a caretaker and someone who was there having fun, as more of a friendship, relationship as opposed to, the parental relationship, it's more with my siblings, and learning. And then there's important things that you can learn from, that relationship aside from, parental, I guess.
Definitely. And then have you found any meaning from recalling these events? Like,
meaning.
Meaning to like your life right now.
I think it's just important to, I guess maybe keep in mind, like as we grow older and as drift apart, just everything that, been through and gone through, and yeah, everything you guys have already done together.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
just keep that in mind in the future. But.
Yeah, and like you're really valuing your relationship with your siblings.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I learned a lot about you and how you were when you were a kid. And I think that'll help us with our progress in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. I'll see you next week, Steven.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah.